your white paper talks about not just blockchain, but the internet tokenizing satellites, microsatellites, ground stations. So,
Yes.
can you explain that vision? And is Nexus more than just for finance? Do you have a greater vision, and how do you see that working?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the fundamental ethos that I could say describes Nexus in a whole is decentralize everything, right? Decentralize everything. So, we need to decentralize communication. We need to decentralize, power production. We need to decentralize our currency, and we need to decentralize our information access, right? Like the satellite constellation system is, for one, to create a physically isolated source of information where the information can actually be stored up there, and we cache it on the ground, right? So that you have this physical isolation property where it can be protected and replicated in that sense. And then the second is availability and access to information, right? Facebook and Google, I think, have tried to fix the internet connectivity issue. There's only about 2 billion people connected to the internet, so about 6 billion people don't have access. And it's an economic issue because those people are generally in impoverished countries and they can't pay $100 a month internet bill. And so it's changing that game theory and the economics of it, where people can buy the hardware and access the network, right? They can access that data. And then the people that are hosting sites and, providing services, they're the ones that enter into a contract with the satellite operator. And then it it exists as kind of a decentralized trusted system. If you saw at the very end, we kind of harness some game theory too, so that you develop a reputation as a hosting provider, so that if you're a bad host, you eventually sell yourself out. But it also had the anti-monopolization barrier, if you saw that, which basically creates a mathematical limit to where if you monopolize too much of the actual hardware, then your selection bias goes down, so that more people will go towards the new smaller guys, and it decentralizes it more. So it mathematically can protect against some of these human conditions, you could say, of the greed or trying to take things over or have more for themselves. But ultimately, to allow information to be free and accessible. But I believe if we had an open network where you could have more of this reputable information openly indexed rather than it being this black box at Google, right? I think people naturally select things that are going to be more, enlightened, especially as there's new discoveries and people are inventing new technologies. There's huge suppression of technologies that threaten the military industrial complex. There's just, I could go on and on and on about, information. Plus, if you've seen, communist takeovers, for lack of better words, information gets siloed, it gets censored, it gets destroyed, books get burned. So books need to be immutable. And also, we need to also be able to source information to know where it came from. Hey, I'm making this claim based on this specific source, or I'm building on someone's research. Just like a blockchain, somebody can publish a paper and then you can reference that paper and use that. And then eventually you could have this chain of events 100, 200 years from now, where you could say, oh, hey, this crazy new technology, let's say a flying car, and it references these guys' technology from, 2000 or whatever, this paper on the basis of controlling gravity or whatever else, it might be. And that can show you where everything came from. And when we understand the source of things, I think we'll be able to understand the context and what they are now a lot better. And